for or against the request will be asked to come forward to the microphone and express their opinion. Each side will have a total of 10 minutes to speak. Development plans require a public hearing. However, no action will be taken by the Planning Commission tonight. Plats, rezonings, revised master plans, and street renamings require a public hearing, and once the public hearing is completed, Planning Commission members will deliberate and render their decisions. Please note that any Planning Commission member with a personal or financial interest in any petitioner's request are required to recuse themselves. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the members of the Planning Commission. We have Mr. Buddy Harwick, Vice Chairman, Andy Clemens, Frank Cook, Patrick Moss, Cruz Reeves, Pickett Reeves, and James Reed. We have 8 members present of the 9, so we do have a quorum. We have members of the Planning Control staff here with us tonight. We have Mr. Tommy Tyson and Ms. Tanya Ingle, Recording Secretary. Members and petitioners are requested to speak directly into the microphone. The minutes are recorded for legal purposes, and this is the only way to accurately pick up audio. As I said before, we have 8 members here tonight. It takes 5 votes to pass a motion. So just know that if you get 5 votes, then that means that it goes in your favor, or in some cases it may not. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight, Mr. Tyson?
No, sir.
No changes. Very good. Each member has had an opportunity to review the minutes. Are there any changes or revisions to the minutes necessary? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor? Motion passes and the minutes are accepted. Okay, Mr. Tyson, are you ready?
Yes. First item is presented by New South Media Group on behalf of the McNeil Family Partnership. It's a public hearing for development plan for a new billboard to be located on the northwest corner of Troy Highway and Taylor Road. It's a B3 district.
Very good. You may present your item.
Good evening. My name's Neil Bell with New South Media Group. Yeah, just proposing a new billboard there right on the corner of Troy and Taylor Road. It's a small little piece right there on the corner.
Okay. Members of the commission, any questions for the petitioner? Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Keep in mind this is a public hearing for a development plan, therefore we won't be taking a vote tonight. So if there's no opposition from the public, then we'll declare a public hearing has been held and we'll move on to the next item. Good luck with your project.
All right, thank you.
Next item by Jeff Code Engineers and Surveyors on behalf of Charlie J. Baldwin, requesting final approval of Charlie J. Baldwin, plat number 1 on the north side of Sanders Lane. It's a flood hazard zoning district.
All right, Guthrie, what do you got for us tonight?
I'm Guthrie Jeff Goat from Jeff Code Engineers and Surveyors, representing Mr. Charlie Baldwin. Property is a square acre located on Sanders Lane and Madison Park, and Mr. Sanders lived there for many, many years, and his home burned a while back, 2 or 3 years ago, and he now wants to rebuild there, and now he's got to do platting to meet the city requirements. So that's where we are today, and would like your consideration accordingly.
Okay. Any members of the commission have any questions for Mr. Guthrie tonight? Does anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we've heard Guthrie's presentation. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you, Guthrie.
Next item is by Donaldson, Garrett, and Associates on behalf of Alpha Properties, Inc. and John C. Parker. It's a request for final approval of O'Reilly Auto Parts Westport Plat Number 1 on the west side of Mobile Highway, some 200 feet south of Burnsdale Drive. It's a M1 district.
Good evening. I'm James Newberry with Donaldson, Garrett and Associates. We are requesting final approval of O'Reilly Auto Parts Westport Plat Number 1. A similar plat was actually approved by the commission, I believe, in May. Right after it was approved, O'Reilly, which has its property under contract, had the opportunity to purchase 60 additional feet, so they elected to do so. So we're resubmitting a new plat with the additional 60 feet combined with it.
Commission members, do you have any questions for the petitioner? Does anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. Thank you.
The next item is Goodwin Mills and Kaywood on behalf of Oak Grove Inn LLC. It's a public hearing for development plan for a new building to be located on the east side of Oak Grove Way, some 400 feet south of Oak Grove Drive. It's a PUD district.
Good evening. Cedric Campbell with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood here presenting on behalf of Oak Grove Inn LLC. We're asking for a development plan approval for a new assisted living facility in Grove Park. Can we turn to the site plan? The dumpsters are located on south of the east parking lot. We're also showing a new street connection to Young Crossing, the cul-de-sac there at Young Crossing, and are answering the questions that the Planning Commission may have.
Commission members, you've heard Mr. Campbell's presentation. What questions do you have for him?
I have a question. On that assisted living, will that only be associated with the members of the association, since it's a private?
I cannot answer that. I'm not sure.
I was just curious.
Yes, sir. I wish I did know, but I don't, and the owner's not here. But I would think it'd be open to anyone, but I'm not sure.
Any other questions to Mr. Campbell? Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we'll declare public hearing has been held, and there's no further action from the commission.
Thank you.
Before you read your next item, Tommy, can we get him to turn your microphone up a little bit, please? All right, Tommy, let's go.
J.M. Garrett and Son on behalf of Capital Farmers Market Incorporated request to rezone one parcel of land containing 12.5 acres on the north side of Taylor Road East, approximately 700 feet east of Taylor Road, from an Ag 1 district to a PGH 40 district.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Richard Bollinger. I'm with J.M. Garrett and Son Engineers and Surveyors. We're here to represent Capital Farmers Market, Inc. to rezone this into a PG 40. There were sketches that were sent out, I believe, to y'all showing the potential use of these lots, the sizes. They're actually 50 foot or larger throughout this 12.5 acres. Had an opportunity to call Shirley Rolling over at Sturbridge Homeowners Association. She put me in touch with Mark Fain of Alpha and with Kevin Kiesler of Alpha to talk to them a little bit about what we were doing. They said they had similar developments. They would not oppose us, that in their future developments they had about 600 acres that would be surrounding this whole development here, that they would probably have some of these in their development as well. I took the opportunity to speak to the City Councilman, Glenn Pruitt, in that district to see if he had any objections or he had heard of any objections, and he told me that at this time he was for this development. Be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Commissioner members, you've heard Mr. Bollinger's presentation. Do you have any questions for him or comments? Are there any members of the audience who wish to speak for or against this item? Please come forward.
Yes, sir.
Before you do that, ma'am, tell us who you are first. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Cindy DeLongchamp. highlighted, my area, the property that I own is highlighted on that handout that I just gave you, which is adjacent to the property that's in question of being rezoned on two sides. Allow me to start with the fact that this is the third time I have been downtown to attend a planning commission meeting on rezoning this specific piece of property. And although I was notified by the planning commission about the rezoning, neither the property owner nor the engineer have contacted me to discuss their plan for this property. So it's nice that he talked to Glenn and Mark, but he didn't bother to call the neighbor. The two main things I see changed on this proposal since the last two similar proposals failed is that the property has a new owner and a new engineer. To my knowledge, the main obstacles that prevented similar patio home projects in the past from moving forward still exist. I see from the agenda that my neighbor wants to put 63 homes on it plus a clubhouse. The previous owner tried to fit 72 with no clubhouse. I believe it was Mr. Upchurch who pointed out the obvious, which was that it wasn't feasible to think 72 homeowners, their family members in cars, along with city service vehicles and emergency vehicles, were going to share a one-lane dirt roadway, which is what Taylor Road East is. And it is my private property, owned and maintained by myself and my husband. The garbage trucks don't even come down Taylor Road East. I have to drive my garbage to a paved road. So to be clear, I own the road. I will not dedicate it to the city for public use. I will not make changes or enhancements in the road to allow for 63 homeowners, their families, their cars, city service vehicles, and emergency vehicles to use my single-lane dirt road. Beyond that, in this plan, I see nothing that addresses drainage, so I assume the worst, and that the new lots will be graded to flood my front yard, or my side yard, or the yards of my Sturbridge neighbors, because the drain pipes go under Taylor Road East, and I'm not digging them up. I also see that I get to stand on my front porch and look at about a dozen back doors and backyards. I doubt that anyone in this room stands on their front porch and looks at their neighbors' back doors and backyards. This plan obviously shows complete disregard for my neighboring home and property. And yesterday, after I met with my real estate attorney, Mr. Bollinger was notified that this property has restrictive covenants in place that do not permit the proposed site layout. So to recap, neither the property owner nor the engineer group has made contact with me to discuss this plan. I have no intention at this time to give anyone permission to use my one-lane dirt road, which will be required to bring about the plans presented here today. And lastly, I do not want to appear as someone who is against development. But this property deserves a better plan than this high-density, hodgepodge product. And when that plan, which includes the restrictive covenants listed in the abstract, is made available, then I think that's when rezoning should be on the table. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, ma'am. Before you go, you may get some questions from the members up here. Are there any questions for the opposer here? From the commission?
What were the zoning, what were the restrictive covenants again?
There's a number of them. I know they deal with minimum square footage. They deal with distance between properties. I gave my real estate attorney a list of them. And he was directed to deal with the property owner's real estate attorney. But that was yesterday because I just saw the plan Wednesday.
Okay, thank you.
And it was not from Mr. Bollinger's office.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly, and what I heard actually corresponds to the handout you gave us. What you gave us outlined in pink is what you actually own.
The pink is mine. You know, it kind of looks like an L, and it fits in with the other property. It kind of looks like an L. But the road that goes in front of that property is mine.
That road is yours because I noticed it's highlighted in
Yes,
pink as
sir.
well.
Yep, that's the whole issue, is that my single-lane dirt driveway would be needed to fulfill, you know, having trucks come in and out, build, whatever. And all the drainage on that property drains to the east, and all of that goes under my driveway. I have multiple drain pipes under there, which Mr. Campbell knows about because he's been out there and worked with me on it when he was working with Alpha.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood that that road is yours.
Yes,
and
sir,
it
that road would be the key right there.
it goes all the way up to Quad Parkway?
Yes. Well, yeah, no, it goes just a few feet from Quad Parkway. The pavement ends and it starts the dirt, but it goes all the way to the back of my property.
Okay. Understood.
Does your property have water and sewer, or does it well?
We have well
and septic?
and septic, as does the neighboring property, is my understanding.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, we have someone else who would like to speak. I'm sorry.
I've got one question, if I could. I want Richard. How do you access the property? I'm trying to understand based on what's the easement. Is it a dedicated easement or what?
I have an attorney with us that represents these people that can address all the restrictions as well as that particular roadway, ingress, egress easement, and utility easement that lies in that road.
Okay, Mr. Harvey, if you don't mind, I'd like to hear the second group, and then we'll always get back to the petitioner. So there's two other gentlemen who would like to speak either for or against this item. So let's hear those guys, and Richard, you'll have a chance to, and your lawyer will have a chance to talk about this when they're done.
Good evening. First of all, thank you all very much for allowing me to have the opportunity to speak. I'm Dr. Roosevelt McCorvey, and it's my pleasure to own the property in front of this property. And I have the exact same concerns as the lady before me, exact same concerns. There's a situation wherein I cannot, in good conscience, be participatory in allowing them to come through my property. I don't know about Taylor Road East, but they're talking about Quad, whatever, that name of that street. But the fact of the matter is that I own that 14-acre business complex, and it's for business, and I don't see how that would enhance my business and my opportunity to do business. And, you know, unless and until that come to fruition, I am going to be with my neighbor, 100%.
Explain, Mr. Dr. Corey, if you don't mind, is yours, for lack of a better term, where the red line lays out this particular piece, is yours to the west of that?
My
faces
property is in
Taylor
front
Road?
of that.
I'm sorry?
My property is in front of it, and it faces
Taylor?
Yes.
It has Taylor
main
and-
Taylor Road, the 14 acres. In other words, it's the thoroughfare right in front of it. Is the property that's on Taylor Road.
Kind of that corner lot almost up there without...
It's 14 lots. They're divided into 14 lots. I've sold one.
You're talking a little further south, huh? Okay. Or a little further west, I think.
Yeah. But that's the property that
I got you.
happen to own, and I have no intentions of participating in a situation like that unless and until something drastically happens. And I share the same sentiment as my neighbor. We've been down here 2 or 3 times for the same kind of off the record kind of addressment of the property. And the property is where it is, and it's like it is. And if somebody wants to be forthright and fair, then maybe something could happen. But unless and until that happens, my property is not in the mix.
Does Quad Parkway go through your property?
That's my property.
Quad Park?
I own that whole. I own the whole complex.
Oh, excuse
Well,
me,
that's
just a
part
second.
of Quad.
Just a second.
Yes.
please. I want somebody to show us, Hamid, you got your little red light, your little red pin light?
No, sir.
I want to be clear, based on what you're describing, Dr. McCorvey, just exactly where we're speaking of. Can somebody describe or show us up here?
Is yours where Cedric Court is?
That's one
your
of my
property.
streets.
Yeah, that's one of his
That's
streets.
one of my streets.
It's in this. See where Cedric is?
It's in the blue
All
there.
those lots you see in there?
Go back 2 more frames.
All those lots east and west of
Those are, that,
The sheet that has the blue line.
So on the, I guess this is the zoning map that we have up here. We're talking
Well,
about.
I could, now if I had a, yes, if I had that pointer, I could point it out to you. I recognize it now.
Can you pull up 5A? And that would show it in blue.
Yeah, can you pull up the one that's got the various colors on it, please? I didn't want to say the color, I just want to say the various colors.
The blue part.
Now, Dr. McCorvey, can you tell us which one's your property? Which,
It is, I think it is the property that isn't blue. It is that Cedric Court, Taylor Road. The blue property is mine.
And it's office lots.
and they are, so just to be clear, the 14, okay, I got it. We're fine now. The blue is yours. What's,
So is the corner.
Yeah,
Sorry?
oh yeah, all of it.
That's Mrs. DeLong.
the long champ is right here. The long champ is where Ag 1 is. Okay,
And this is in the middle.
I got you.
Is the road that goes across, directly across from McRae Drive on the east side of Taylor, is that private road or is that public road, or does that belong to you or Mr. Longchamp, or whose is that?
I don't recognize what you.
Which road?
Engineering, actually.
Which road are you talking about?
From Taylor Road.
From Taylor Road, from Taylor to the
From
property
Taylor
in
to
question.
Quad, from
Is that a public road or
From
private
Taylor
road?
to Quad is dedicated public use. From Quad to back where you see that one is mine.
Okay, we're straight. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Say that again, because I thought the whole thing.
What she said.
I thought the whole thing was not a dedicated. You said
No.
part of it
It's not.
was?
It's from Taylor to Quad.
Everybody,
Where Taylor Road East intersects with Taylor Road, right there.
Okay.
Between Quad Parkway and Taylor Road is a very short distance. That is designated public use. That is how the neighbors south of us in the Oaks neighborhood access their property.
go from Quad back to your property, please.
That's mine.
All right, so from Quad back is yours, and it's
Yes, sir.
and that's deeded property that you.
Yes, sir. I pay
Okay.
tax on that, I maintain that, and like I said, city services.
Speaking to the microphone, ma'am, thank you.
Like I said, city services don't even come down my driveway.
But you can't get to your property without passing over the public
Correct.
property.
No one can.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure.
Okay, are there any other comments from the audience in opposition to this item? Because the way the rules work now, the petitioner has an opportunity to come back up here and conclude his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I sure appreciate the opportunity. First, when you have a highway like Taylor Road that's out there with the noise, your natural progression for a buffer zone would be to have some nice offices out in front of your subdivision. You probably go back from there to patios, and then from there maybe into estates, and that's how you set up your PUD typically, because no one really wants all that noise that's right there on Taylor Road. But to address the road and the restrictions, I'd like for Terry Wilson to come up, who is the attorney that represents this, and he can speak to those facts for you.
Okay?
I can certainly explain the two legal issues that Ms. DeLongchamp has mentioned, because I've been involved with all of these properties, the surrounding properties, for a number of years now. The private roadway that Ms. DeLongchamp has a quitclaim deed to is subject to easements, including easements for ingress, egress, and utilities, restrictions and reservations appearing of record. And the reason for that is there were numerous conveyances out earlier that connected on to Taylor Road East, and it was how people got to their properties. And a number of those properties are now part of the Oaks. And so a right-of-way easement exists to the subject property, and utility easements exist to the subject property. and where it will enter Taylor Road or Taylor Lane East. Secondly, the restrictive covenants that Ms. DeLongchamp refers to have been revoked years ago. Just like the same covenants were on the property that Dr. McCorvey owns. We revoked those covenants prior to the platting of his office park. And where the Oaks is currently located, there were the same restrictive covenants on each of about 5 owners that previously owned that property that were revoked, and there have been, I guess there's probably 50 houses in the Oaks. There have been multiple sales and changes of hands and conveyances of property, and I suspect title policies have been issued on each and every one of those properties, which originally had the same covenants on lot size and distances from roads and so forth that were long since removed. In the property, the subject property, those covenants have been removed. They're recorded of record, and I'll be glad to provide you copies of the recorded revocations. It was done the same way, the exact same way the revocation was done on the property that Dr. McCorvey owns. And there were no title problems related to that. He has sold at least one or more of those properties from the office park. There were no title-related problems related to that. My client has a title policy that has no restrictions with regard to those previous restrictive covenants because they had been removed. And I've coordinated with several title insurance companies on that. So the issues, the legal issues she's talking about don't exist any longer. They're not legal issues. There's a right-of-way to be able to get to the subject property, ingress, egress, utility easements, and they're there. With regard to properties, the Oaks, you've got yards that back up on that same Taylor Road East right now. You've got Sturbridge on the far side of the subject property. So it's all been subdivided out. You've got the office park to the west of it between the subject property and Taylor Road that's been there for 9 or 10 years now. You've got the Alpha property, which is to the west and to the south or southeast of the subject property, and there's been an indication they're going to develop those at some point. The whole nature of the area has changed since the 35 years or so ago, or even 45 years ago, when those covenants were originally put in place, which is why they were revoked long ago.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I ask a question for you? Why would anybody want to buy a lot over there with a single lane road, even if it wasn't in controversy?
Well, it may be single lane now, but it doesn't necessarily have to remain single lane.
What's the width of that easement, Terry?
50 feet? 50 feet.
50 foot, and that includes...
Hang on, we didn't get that answer for the record. What's the width of the road?
50 feet, I believe.
Speaking to
No, the road is 1.9 acres. The width,
Ma'am, just hang on, stay with us for a minute, okay?
Yeah.
It's gonna be all right.
his ingress and egress is 50 foot,
We're gonna give you a chance to talk, okay?
and the roadway is 54 feet wide.
Okay. But we asked the attorney. Terry, what is it?
It's my understanding.
Speaking to the microphone, please.
It's my understanding that it's a 50-foot right-of-way ingress, egress utility easement.
And that, okay, that utility is in that 50 foot, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson, you have used the word revoke several times. Who is doing the revoking?
The original people that put the covenants in place, and the owners at the time the revocations took place. It was Judith Huddleston individually, and as executrix of her late husband's estate, and the owners at that time, which was Hugh V. Smith III, who owned all of the subject property we're talking about. And that's what it took to revoke it, just like the same revocations were done earlier on Dr. McCorvey's property and on the property where the Oaks is located, because the covenants were put in place by the same people.
Okay, thank you for this. Since this is rather unique, we're going to let the other side speak for a second because she's there raising her hand, and I think, Dr. McCorvey, you brought your attorney too, so we're not going to turn this into a courtroom, but we want everybody to have a chance to talk. So go right ahead, ma'am.
I'll be brief. I did not realize we were bringing our attorneys, or I would have brought mine, so y'all get me again. Those covenants were in place as of yesterday when I sat down with my real estate attorney and went through them. One covenant expired in the 80s, and that was between Huddleston and the Mandels. Hugh Smith was the owner after the Mandels. So he is partly correct. That particular piece of property, that 12.5 acres, was in the front yard of the Huddlestons. It had more deed restrictions than the other areas that have been developed around it. You see behind my property, the big yellow part, that is still deed restricted, 5-acre lots. That's why Alpha hasn't built anything there, because those covenants still exist. They exist on my property. But, you know, I think it was you that brought up the best question. No, sir, it was you. It's still a one-lane dirt driveway, and it's mine, and I'm not giving anybody permission to use it.
You've been heard, ma'am. Dr. McCorvey, okay, very good. Richard, you know how this works. When we have a situation like this, where you've got that kind of opposition to the petitioner's request, we generally ask that you and your client have a chance to meet with the opposition, the property owners that are adjacent to this, and see if there's something that can be worked out, and maybe come back in 30 days and present it. But now the option's yours, but I just want to put that on the table to see if we can have some discussion about that option.
I'll be glad to ask our representatives over here if they'd like to do that. I think we knew that Mr. Longchamp was going to be in opposition to the development to start with. My first time I met her out there, she was telling me about the restrictions on the property, so I was a little reserved at what we could do with the property until we actually looked at it. There again, what we see, I think, out here is the driveway from the doctor's property right there in blue is about 100 foot up is where our entrance road would be. So there's a short piece in there that I think we would like to use, since it supposedly is, those easements go along with the property that I don't know if she purchased it or how she got it, but I think the easements go along with the property and the right to use it. That's not me, that's the attorneys to look at. Her attorney did write me a letter, sent it to me. I sent him back a nice note. I told him who our attorney was. Hers is Matt Ellis, a very good real estate attorney. And I think, you know, in them talking, I don't know what she would like to work out other than probably not to develop the property. So I think, let me ask if they want to move forward for a vote. But there again, I think the progression is a nice office park in front of you kind of buffers a lot of the noise. You step back with some patio homes. This was a schematic sketch right here that we did. It's not maybe the exact layout. Some of the lots are a lot larger than 50 foot. The housing that they're looking at putting in there are larger than 2,000 square foot. So it's not something that's small or really shabby. I think it's something that will actually add value out there to this property. Let me just ask them if they want to move forward for a vote.
I'm sorry, buddy, go ahead.
Richard, let me make sure I understand one more little facet to this. You just said that the lots are more than 50. Some 50,
some are.
Some more. But the rezoning is 40.
That's right. We don't have a PG larger than 40, so that's why we sent the sketch down with dimensions on it to show our intent is 50 or larger. No side lot lines, no houses built on it. We're talking about, you know, spacing between houses.
So one of the parts of the conversation y'all may want to have, if y'all agree to do that, is that maybe you do queue the thing to 50, that you won't build anything less than 50. Because you would be able to go to 40.
I think we can agree to something like that tonight, that we wouldn't go less than 50.
Well, let me jump in here and say this. I noticed you mentioned you spoke with Ms. DeLongchamp, but I don't know how much conversations you've had with Dr. McCorvey. Since he is a neighbor to this...
we did let Dr. McCorvey know what our intention was. We even thought about maybe a second entrance maybe into his cul-de-sac and purchasing a couple of his lots to do that, if that would resolve anything. And I think he decided at that time that he wanted to keep what he had intact.
Okay, well, somebody jumped up back there. Well, you know, I'm just trying to make sure that the decision's yours, as you know, and your clients.
Yes.
And normally, when you have this kind of opposition with neighbors, we like to try to get it worked out. But of course, if your clients decide that they want to go up with a vote, then that's the risk that they take. But if you want to ask them or have them come up, we'd like to have that for the record.
And I think that's fair. I think, you know, Alpha represents a pretty large surrounding around us. And like I say, they're not here to oppose us. So let me check with my client right quick.
Why don't you ask your client to come up here? But this is a public hearing. He needs to come up here.
In the meanwhile, I'll give you all a copy of these reports.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my client has decided that we probably wouldn't get any kind of negotiations as far as what we would put in there. What they're wanting to put in there, like we said, are 50-foot and or larger lots, 2,000 square foot or larger houses. And that's what they would like to put in there. So that's what we asked for tonight, is to move this to the PGH 40, knowing that on record we're saying we're going to go 50 foot wide or larger.
So, you know, I guess in my mind, Richard, there still seems to be some legal issues that I'm not comfortable with, and I'm certainly not an attorney. But it does seem to me that there appears to be some difference of opinions, and I know a legal opinion is worth the paper it's written on, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's not worth that, but at the end of the day, y'all have a situation where the doctor is saying, I don't want this. Ms. DeLongchamp is saying, I own that road, and I don't care what you're telling me. I'm being told that that's not the case. And James is saying, yes, that is the case. I'm just telling you, I think y'all got some issues that are greater than, and spend some time deciding who is right and who is wrong, and it may not ever happen, because you do have three lawyers.
And I think you're right with the legal issues. I think I've seen what was presented to me for my benefit, and I think before it could be developed, and we would have another stage to go through, which would be a development plan stage, to actually come down and work it out. But what I'm saying right now is, yeah, I think those differences before anybody could build anything out there, then all those issues would have to be satisfied.
Well, let me make it clear tonight that this body is not considering any legal anything. All we're considering is the fact of the rezoning as it's been presented. So I don't want us to get entangled with these legal minds, because I'm sure these guys are good, but I can't fool with that tonight. We're dealing with the rezoning request. And Tom, if I'm looking at this correctly, it says the land use plan recommends agricultural use. So if you want to proceed with the vote, is that what I understand you to say, Richard?
That's correct, and I think that usage that was out across that whole area, and we've seen it all change, on your map that you had was all ag back when it was done in 1974.
I understand. So the petitioner has requested that we take a vote on this action tonight. If there are no more questions from the commission or the audience, a motion's in order.
Mr. Chairman, I think this controversy needs to be settled before we vote on this.
The petitioner has requested a vote. And Cruz, what do you think that we as a body need to resolve? Or what's your recommendation?
Postponement.
He wants to vote, and he's asked for it, and he's paid
He's
for
asked
it.
for the vote.
I'll voice my opinion.
Move it up or down?
Tommy, we don't have the option to make that decision for the petitioner, do we?
No.
He's properly advertised, it's in here.
That's what I'm saying.
I move to deny.
Motion's been made to deny the request. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been properly made and second. All in favor of denying the request, raise your hand. Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's been denied. Thank you. Next item.
Okay. All right. Next item is by James Wilson Jr. on behalf of Bernardo Whetstone, requesting a rezone a parcel of land containing 1 acre on the northwest corner of Fuller Road and Moore Street from R50 to R99S.
Mr. Wilson, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm here.
What you got?
It's just a request to rezone a 1 acre parcel that's in Madison Park. It's currently zoned single family residential. He's asking that it be rezoned to a mobile home subdivision. And the only other thing I might add that there are mobile homes in the area that have been passed on. So we'd ask the commission to approve the rezoning request.
Okay, so to recap, you wanting to rezone this property for mobile home use?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is this in the police jurisdiction now out there?
Well, you know, I don't know. I think it's outside of the police jurisdiction. But if it's outside of the police jurisdiction, well, when you originally brought it to me, I thought it was outside of the city. Mm-hmm. But apparently it's within the city, and that's why we're asking for this rezoning request.
Okay.
We do have city services out there, so I think maybe it's in the, some of it is and some of it, but this particular parcel I think is in the city.
Is there water and sewer to this site?
No. They have put sewer on the main old Wetumpka Highway, but not up Fuller Road. Most of that property still required septic tanks.
And I'm going to go back to your question. I'm going to get it right in my mind. Tanya, is this in the city limits?
If you look on your write-up, we put on there what council district it's in. If there's a council district there, it's in the city limits. And it's in District 2.
District 2,
Okay.
So it is in the
All right. Okay.
It's in the
city limits, but what about the police jurisdiction?
Well, it's
The police jurisdiction is 3 miles beyond the city limits.
I'm sorry, it is?
The police jurisdiction starts where the city limits ends.
It can't go. It starts.
Goes beyond. Okay.
I can't tell you for sure where that line is,
Well, that's fine. I mean, we got it now. She answered the question
Okay.
For you. So were you done with your presentation, sir?
Yes, sir.
Members of the commission, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Wilson?
Has there been any conversations out there with the members of that community as far as a trailer park?
No, but there have been in recent years a number of people who have put trailers out there, and it does not appear to be any real opposition to putting trailers out there.
How many trailers would you, I know you hadn't done your complete engineering and all that, but I know you've done your figured your costs and all that. How many lots are you talking on this?
That we have trailers on out there?
No, on this rezoning that we're looking at right now.
Right.
How many you're talking about a trailer park, which means more than one trailer.
Yes,
Okay.
but now we technically don't have a trailer park. What we have is trailers at different locations in the area.
I realize that, but this, if I understood you correctly, you're trying to rezone this for a trailer park.
Yeah, but,
Park meaning more than one trailer.
yeah, but it's only a request to rezone 1 acre. So we're only talking about putting one trailer
There's
on
only
the-
one home.
Yeah.
According to the
But what's confusing on here, it says to a mobile home subdivision, and I had the same concern.
Yeah.
Right.
But under remarks, it just says one home.
I understand that, but the remarks and what we vote on, I want it to be the same thing.
Yeah.
I want to be clear, Mr. Wilson, you're only requesting to put one trailer
On 1 acre.
on 1 acre.
That's right. I'm not requesting a,
Multiple trailers
No,
on 1
no.
acre, one trailer on 1 acre.
Thank you.
that's right.
Okay.
However, the question does remain though, based on what is going to be rezoned, can he still put more than one trailer on 1 acre based on the R99S?
Yes, a single, isn't it?
I'm just asking the question.
Not if you queue it.
I was about to say, can't we just
So
queue it and
so
go
that
on?
needs to be the motion, if that's our concern, is that whatever all this means, he's gonna put, the motion needs to represent only one trailer on 1 acre.
That's right.
And that's your request. It's
That's
just
my-
that we don't know if the zoning requires that,
That's right. That's right.
okay?
That's all
Thank you for
that.
that. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Wilson from the commission? Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Wilson, will you be agreeable to have this property queued, which means qualified, which means if you want to put anything more than one trailer on it, you'd have to come back to this commission?
Yes, sir, I will.
Okay, then I would recommend that we approve this rezoning with the understanding that it will be queued to only allowing one trailer on this property.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. The motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
You get to put one trailer
I got you.
on 1 acre.
I got you. Otherwise, I got to come back to it.
Otherwise, you gotta come back. There you go. Thank you, sir.
The next item is by Mary Hartson on behalf of Energy Wise Builders LLC. It's a request to modify the qualified restrictions for the property located at the northwest corner of Vaughn Road and Central Parkway, 4695 Vaughn Road. It's a B3Q district.
Yes, my name is Mary Hartson, and my mother and I own Diamond One Decor, which is a DBA of Energy Wise Builders. We have recently purchased 4695 Vaughn Road. It's known as the former Leanne Interiors building. We're currently moving our furniture store into this new location. The building is zoned B3Q, which we would like to modify to include limited Class C. We would like to do the Class C zoning in order that we can have special events inside the main building, like dinner parties, holiday parties, bridal luncheons, and wedding receptions.
Okay?
Okay?
All right, well, any members of the commission have any comments or questions for the petitioner?
Johnny, you gonna, okay.
Well, we're gonna get to that in a minute.
I know, but that's the reason I was gonna comment if he wasn't gonna get to it. I was gonna bring it up and ask the question.
Okay. Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Now John comes up. Mr. Stanley, how you doing tonight, sir?
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Thank y'all for what you're doing tonight. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Clarence Ball. Mr. Ball is has the adjacent property under contract, which is shown in blue on your drawings. About 9 acres of that 01 property there. And Mr. Ball proposes to do a healthcare facility on approximately 9 to 10 acres of that property. So I'm here tonight on his behalf to offer his approvals subject to the letter that I have provided to you, and I would like to make this letter part of the record, and I will read it. Mr. Clarence M. Ball, the proposed buyer of 4525 Vaughn Road, has no objection to the owner of 4695 Vaughn Road hosting wedding events at 4695 Vaughn Road. We'll call it the building, but subject to the following conditions. All wedding events shall occur inside the building. No music will be played outside the building at any time. No alcoholic beverages will be consumed or served outside the building at any time. And no other uses in B3 Class C use will be permitted. I'm looking at the agenda that Ms. Harson submitted, and in your agenda, she specifically stated that she wanted the use to allow the owner to host weddings. I heard the petitioner state that she would like special events. So I would like to limit this use on Mr. Ball's behalf to the use of wedding events only, as she has presented it in her application for this petition. We would appreciate very much your consideration of these conditions.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Hartson, here's a copy of the letter that he just read. I don't know if you have a copy of it or not.
Yes, sir, I have a copy. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, you have some other folk behind you. Please come forward and state your name, please.
Good evening. I'm Earl Martin, and I am the president of Young Farm Residential Association, which is represented in yellow on the picture. We have no objection to the use of this property as described in this letter that Mr. Stanley just presented. I was a little concerned until I saw this, because we had no description of what the property's use would be. So that's why I came down tonight to find out. But after talking to Mr. Stanley, and I understand there's been some agreement with the owners of the property, we don't have any objection based on the use of the property for weddings at all. And unfortunately, I've been married 53 years, so I probably won't be using it, but maybe some people in my neighborhood will. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. If someone else would like to speak, please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Shelley Parker. I'm a homeowner there at Young Farm Place, right across the street from that. We just got word of this rezoning like a couple of days ago, so we hadn't had a chance to talk to our association. But I'm against that due to the parties and the drinking right across from my home. I feel like it'll probably bring down my property value. When I moved in that subdivision 10 years ago, it was a retired neighborhood, and that was my purpose for moving there. My husband retired Navy, and we moved down from Virginia. So that's what attracted it to us. And I feel like to bring that into our neighborhood, it's going to drastically reduce the value, because I feel like there will be the drinking, and me being a couple of doors from that, which unfortunately I've had the incident before when there was Celebration Club down a couple of doors. Somebody ran from that spot, scaled my fence, and the police in the neighborhood. I really don't want to have that close to me again. So for that reason, I'm against that rezoning, and I'm sure a lot of my neighbors would agree with me if they would have been notified in a timely manner. So I would like for that to be taken into consideration.
I have a question for you. Do you object to the wedding, having weddings there, and the drinking only inside? If it was restricted to only drinking inside during weddings, would you object to that?
If they drink inside, they have to come out at some time. That's my concern there. I mean, If they could guarantee a wedding with no drinking, that's fine. You know, I don't disapprove of the wedding, but if there is a wedding and there's drinking, I feel like there is that possibility because they can't stay inside even with the drinking. They have to come out sometime. And every day you turn on the news, it's unfortunate that you're seeing where at a gathering, there's a shooting, this or that or whatever, or a fight. And I don't really want that close to my home.
So your main concern, you don't mind the wedding, it's just the alcohol consumption that's problematic. At least that's what I heard.
Exactly.
Okay, so just real quick, have you had a chance to talk to her neighborhood association, Ms. Hartson?
No, sir.
Come closer, please, if you don't mind. So you hadn't had a chance to speak with that particular neighborhood association?
No,
but
sir.
On the map, can you show us which neighborhood you live in, ma'am? Or can you?
It's zone 5. I think it's considered zone 5.
Yeah, I think we're Cal Corner to the right of the building. We're the largest section of Young Farm.
Young Farm is across the street, right?
Exactly, yeah.
We're Young Farm Place. It's a Young Farm
Right.
and it's Young Farm Place. We're Young Farm Place.
That's next to.
No,
we're across the street, sir.
We're across the street. Young Farm is next to.
That's what I'm saying.
Young Farm Place is across the street.
I understand that. So the gentleman who came up before was talking about across the street. You all are talking about on the same side.
No, he's on the same side.
But you all
We're
are across the street. Okay. Just wanted to get that clear.
Are you members of that neighborhood association?
Excuse me?
Are you members of that neighborhood association?
Yes,
we are. Mr. Martin spoke for that.
No, we're two different associations.
The neighborhood on the same street have their association, and the neighborhood across the street have their association.
Exactly.
And that's why I wanted to get it clear, guys, that what she's talking about is across the street.
Right.
The gentleman that was before her is on the same side as the building. So it's two different neighborhoods.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yes, it's two different neighborhoods. Okay. Okay, well, Mr. Martin, would you step back up here, please? Mr. Martin, we're trying to get this clear as to.
I represent the 171 homeowners who are across the street, and the lower left of the picture is Young Farm. Young Place is the upper left of the picture, and in the far center at the top is Young Point. Those are the three different neighborhoods.
And I just want to make it clear that, are you guys talking about the same neighborhood?
No.
They're not talking
What is
about
the
the
name
same.
of your neighborhood?
Young Farm Place.
Young Farm Place. That's their street. It's right. It's actually Young Place is the name of the areas to the upper left. Across, and it's on the same side of the street, but on the other side of Annabelle Young's house.
Very good. I understand that now.
I'm across the street.
You're across the street, she's on the same side of the street as the establishment.
Right.
Yeah.
We're fine. I got it. Yeah, so we're talking about two different places. Okay, so what happens now, Ms. Hartson, is you get a chance to come back up here, given whatever issues you've heard, and address those issues, and we'll tell you where we're going from there.
Okay.
And please speak into the mic.
These are the proposed plans for the interior of the building. I understand that her concern is drinking. With all due respect, thank you. With all due respect, across the street from me is an ABC liquor store. So there's liquor in that vicinity no matter what. I'm certainly not having a bar or a club or anything of that nature. I have several physicians groups that want to have holiday parties. We're not looking to have a bar with a lot of drinking. Simply an elegant wedding reception in a beautiful building. And the building has sat vacant for years. So we're just trying to bring it back from an empty, vacant building to something that the community can be proud of.
And I assume the weddings will just be occasional.
Yes, sir.
Not like a bar every night.
No, sir.
And I was concerned when Mr. Stanley made the comment, will you be having anything other than weddings, such as receptions or other types of events there? Or is that your plans to have things like that? Because I don't think his letter addressed those types of comments. If it did, I missed it. I mean, you're having a Christmas party for a doctors association.
Correct.
Does his letter address that?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay.
Well,
Well, he's shaking his head no
Oh, I'm
behind
sorry,
it.
he's shaking his head no.
I just want to make sure what was agreed to and what was not, because I didn't get the impression that those
What we had
types of events.
discussed was special events.
Okay.
So I
Well,
didn't know that
understand
I
what
was
you're
limited
asking
to
for.
weddings.
I understand what you're asking for, but that's not what his letter said, I don't think.
Okay.
So I'd like to get some clarification
Sure.
on what, either two of you can get into an agreement or you cannot, and then we'll have to vote on whatever we want to do.
Okay.
But I'd appreciate if y'all can make sure that you're in agreement with what he says, or you're not in agreement, whatever the decision.
Well, hang on. We're not about to do that right this second, because I've got a question.
Sure.
Special events from where you're coming from, and the way I'm seeing this, it says amusement and assembly. That's how it's described in our packet. How many people can you accommodate for whatever special event that you're having?
I haven't had the city come out and take an occupancy of the building yet, but I don't believe large events. You know, the building is not conducive to 300 people. I mean, it's just not.
Because that begs the next question is about your parking and what you're allowed to park.
Correct. So I have 62 paved spaces along the front road, which is Vaughn. It goes across and then down the side, which is Central Parkway. And we also have a gravel lot for a few overflow parking in the back.
I understand that, but here's what I want to at least suggest.
Okay.
There's some folk who had not been contacted by you about your plans, who just spoke in opposition. I don't necessarily think tonight that you and Mr. Stanley's client have an agreement yet based on what he expressed versus what you just told us. And one of the things I would ask you to do, or consider, not do, can't make you do it, is if you could get with the folk who are concerned and talk to them a little bit about your plans in a little bit more detail, and in 30 days you guys will come back with an agreement, that would be wonderful. But I can't make you do it. If you want us to vote on it tonight, we will, but I would prefer that you guys have an opportunity to talk particularly with the neighborhood who has no idea what you're talking about. And they're the ones that are on the same side of the street that you're on. If you're agreeable to do that, then we would see you next month.
Yeah, she's just a partner.
Everything was posted, and
When
when Mr. Stanley asked to meet with us last week, it was discussed that it would be special events. And our agreement with him was that we are not serving alcohol at all. If someone gets their license through the city and brings alcohol in, that's okay. We don't drink, and we are trying to run a lovely, lovely, lovely place. Everything was posted in the neighborhood about the rezoning, and the gentleman with the homeowners association, he came, and the other homeowners associations did not. And it's going to put a strain on us if we can't go ahead and arrange to have what we've tried to do by mid-September. And that's, if we can't, we can't. But I don't know what else to say. We've agreed to everything we've been asked, and
I understand your concern, ma'am, and I would love to see that building have some more life in it. The concern I have is two concerns. One is that your next door neighbor or neighbor in that area has expressed a concern that she's unaware of what's going on. And she stood there a second ago and said that. and she bought it for her retirement and so forth, and understand all that. I just think that somebody needs to explain that to her. The second thing is, let me just say this. The second thing is, I'm concerned about the parking for the, quote, special events. And at this point in time, I'm not real sure if you're going to have a need for 100 people, and they're parked up and down Bond Road or across the street in the Winn-Dixie parking lot or wherever. You're shaking your head like no, but nobody can quantify that and say yes. Those are my two concerns, is about what happens with the overflow parking if the demand is beyond the 65 spaces in the gravel spaces that you have demonstrated tonight. I don't know that. But here again, you've asked for a rezoning, and we'll be delighted to vote on it, but I'm just saying that just as the previous petitioner, they decided to move forward, but we asked them to do the same thing. Get with the folk who are concerned about it, and if you can work it out, fine. If not, come back in 30 days. But that's your decision, not ours.
Okay, we'll
So,
come.
Tommy, let me ask you a question on parking, because that's my real concern too. And I know we're not to that, we're doing a rezoning, we're not doing a plat. What is the, on this piece of property, is there a way to equate mentally the size of the parking now, plus the overflow, to how many people would be at an event based on the parking that's there now? Is there a way to give us an idea? Now, I know we're asking an engineering question, but
I think we can. We've got quite a few weddings scheduled, and the maximum number at this point is 100.
100 total bodies?
Yes, and that's the range we're looking at. We don't have, we're small, we're us, and we just don't have the ability to do a 200 or 300 wedding. Or we have Diane Teague, and I don't know if you all know her or not. She's asked for a doctor's reception. I know when Leanne had the building, there were a lot of parties, and
can I approach it another
Sure.
way? Do you ever envision, and I know this is looking at the fortune cookies, okay? Do you ever envision anything over 125 people?
No.
Okay. Tommy, 125 people equates to approximately how many cars? Is there a way to mentally give us a guesstimate, or maybe one of the engineers?
Well, let me jump in here and say this. It's in our packet. It tells us what the parking requirements are. And it's, depending on which district we're going with, it's either 1.25 spaces per 200 square feet of gross building area. So however many square feet their gross building is, would have to be divided by the parking requirement.
And that's my question. I went to Mississippi State, so I can't do it.
Oh, you can figure it out. Well, nobody told us how big the square footage was.
All I'm asking is, give me a number, because I'm going somewhere with this, okay? And where I'm going is, we may queue the thing on a max number of people. That's where I'm heading.
But I want to stop though. Let's just get. But I gotta jump in here. See, that's why I asked the question about the number of people, because the fire marshal will determine that.
That's right.
You see what I mean? And I don't think that's within our purview up here tonight, is to determine the occupancy load for their building. You see, so I don't want to get into that aspect of the discussion about determining the occupant load, because that's in another jurisdiction. The only thing I was really trying to get to is about how many spaces would be required based on the occupant load. But she said that the guy hadn't been out there to give her that information yet. That draws me back to say I'm a little concerned that being an unknown, and that's a huge facility, that gives me pause.
Only the main building is going to be used as the event place. The rest is furniture.
Okay. The next thing that I want to bring up is, you said that you and Mr. Stanley's client have an agreement, but I don't think you do.
Not really.
Because what Mr. Stanley read and what she just explained are two totally different things. He's limiting his consent to this for weddings. That's on the sheet that you have, ma'am. But I think you're asking for special events, which includes weddings and other potential activities other than weddings. And I don't know if Mr. Stanley has agreed to those other things other than weddings. At least that's not what it says here. Come on up, Mr. Stanley.
Thank you.
Yes, the petitioner and I did have that discussion about special events, okay? But then in the agenda, they're asking for weddings, not special events. Special events is a very broad term.
Exactly.
I don't know how you can get real specific with that. Then when I discussed this with Mr. Ball, who's proposing to buy the property next door and use it for assisted living, retirement center, whatever, he prefers that it be limited to wedding use only. That's pretty specific.
That's why I wanted Mrs.
But yes,
Hodgson to
they are
understand.
correct. We did discuss that. That seemed okay with me. That was not okay with Mr. Ball.
Just wanted to be sure that the petitioner
you.
understood the distinction of what you think you may have heard, but what has been presented tonight on the restrictions to weddings, and you guys are still talking about special events. So
Tonight was the first we knew that Mr. Stanley had changed what we agreed to.
So, ma'am, that's one of the reasons we're kind of taking our time here.
Okay.
So that hopefully you guys will agree to talk more about what you think you agreed on.
Sound like they got some weddings planned.
They got some weddings, well, we can vote on it, but I'm just simply saying is that I don't know if anybody's in agreement with what they just presented, that are their neighbors or prospective buyers. That's the point I'm trying to make, guys, is that they're here and there's opposition to it, and we can certainly vote on it, but I would like for them to have a chance to talk about it. But if that's not possible, then we'll hear a motion.
May I ask a question, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about special events and other holiday parties, and we talked about parking spaces allotment, and what about the support people that are coming for the events, such as the catering people and the wait staff and the bands? And will there be music and live bands?
We have no live bands scheduled. There are caterers, and the caterers have 3 vans.
And those people, the parking spaces that you have would accommodate the staff, the guests, as well as the support folk?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
All right.
so here we are. So is it your request that we move forward with the vote, ma'am?
No.
It's not your request that
No.
we move forward. So you're asking that we table this until our next meeting?
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Your request has been honored.
Thank you.
And so for the folk who said that they didn't have a chance to understand what's going on at this particular property, now is the time to do it between now and the next time that this item is brought before us.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Next item, Connie.
The next item is by Commercial Site Design on behalf of Cookout Restaurant. It's a public hearing for development plan for a new building at 1355 Eastern Boulevard in a B3 district.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Chris Clayton with Commercial Site Design out of Raleigh, North Carolina, here representing Cookout Restaurants. We're here to obtain development plan approval for the proposed Cookout Restaurant at 1355 Eastern Boulevard. You may recall that Cookout presented a development plan to the Commission back in December of 2015 when they were looking to develop the southern half of this site. They've since purchased the property and decided to move their development to the northern half of the lot, and that's why we're here. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, this is a development plan. Any members of the commission have any questions or comments? Any members of the audience who speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we'll declare a public hearing has been held. Thank you for your time.
Next item by Commercial Site Design on behalf of Cookout Restaurant. It's a public hearing for development plan for a new building on the southeast corner of Zelda Road and Ann Street. It's a B4 district.
Once again, Chris Clayton, Commercial Site Design, here on behalf of Cookout Restaurants. We are here to obtain development plan approval for proposed Cookout Restaurant to be located at Zelda Road and Ann Street. And again, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Again, this is a development plan. Any questions for the petitioner? Any members of the audience who should speak for or against this item? Declare public hearing has been held. Thank you. Next item.
Flowers and White Engineering on behalf of Trailer Services, a public hearing for development plan for an addition at 3050 Birmingham Highway, it's the M3 district.
You missed one,
Oh,
Mr. Tyson.
Sorry.
Yeah, Tommy, you jumped on us, item 10.
I'm sorry, let me go back. Cookout. Zell, is it number 10?
Number 10, Tommy.
Okay. Commercial site design request final approval of Cookout Zelda Inc. Plat number 1 on the southeast corner of Zelda Road and Ann Street in the B4 district.
Again, Chris Clayton, Commercial Site Design on behalf of Cookout Restaurants. In conjunction with the development plan we just discussed, this is the recombination plat for the same property there at Zelda Road and Ann Street. Again, just here to answer any questions that the commission may have with regard to the plat.
All right, members of the commission, any questions, comments for the petitioner? Any members of the audience who speak for or against this item? Seeing none, the motion is in order.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. Thank you.
Now Flowers and White
There you go,
Engineering
Tom.
on behalf of Trailer Services, public hearing for development plan for addition at 3050 Birmingham Highway, it's a M3 district.
Good evening. Hey, how are y'all? I'm Kenneth White, Jr. with Flowers of White, representing Trailer Services. This is just a simple addition to a building. I really don't think there's any other improvements other than that off of Birmingham Highway.
All right, this is a development plan, so members of the commission, any questions or comments? Any members of the audience who speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we declare public hearing has been held. Next item, Connie.
Flowers and White Engineering on behalf of Sapphire Community Dialysis, public hearing for a development plan for new building at 8149 Decker Lane. It's a PUD district.
All right, KJ, go.
Hey, I'm again Kenneth White, Jr. with Flowers and White, representing Sapphire Community Dialysis. So approximately 7,500 square foot building proposed off of Decker Lane near off of Atlanta Highway. I can entertain any questions or.
All right, members of the commission, this is a development plan. Any questions or comments for KJ? Seeing none, any members of the audience who speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we'll declare public hearing has been held. Thank you, KJ. Next.
Flowers and White Engineering on behalf of Park Place Center LLC requesting approval for a revised master plan for the property along Fane Park Drive and Fane Park Loop in a PUD district.
Again, Kenneth White, Flowers and White, representing Park Place Center, LLC. This PUD was approved several months ago with a 20-foot front setback on the 30 and 50-foot lots. And the owner wishes to move the house closer to the right-of-way to make a more stately look, and that's what we're asking for, a 0-foot front setback in lieu of the 20-foot setback that was asked for a couple of months ago.
Okay, just to be clear, we do vote on this. I know this is a little bit strange since we hadn't been doing it recently, but this is a voting item, so members of the commission, do you have any questions or comments for KJ? Seeing none, any members of the audience who should speak for or against this item? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Flowers and White Engineering on behalf of Philip Pouncey requesting to rezone 18.89 acres on the southwest side of Troy Highway, some 1,500 feet south of Taylor Road from Ag 1 to B2.
Again, I'm Kenneth White, Flowers and White, representing Philip Pouncey. My client, Philip Pouncey, rezoned a portion of his property, I think back in 2005, to a B2. Q, they have some qualifications in that as well. We met at the time with the adjacent property owners, and that really is adjacent to that property. The area in red is the remaining property that he has that's currently zoned Ag 1, I believe, and he's asking to rezone that to a B2 for his whole property to be zoned B2.
Okay, members of the commission.
Yeah, I got a question for the planning department, planning controls. Was Taylor Ridge notified of this? Did y'all send letters to Taylor Ridge?
This property doesn't touch any of the lots in Taylor Ridge.
Mr. Reeves, I could say though, they weren't notified, but we left business cards on every lot that touched us on their front porch. Well, at least my client did, Philip Pouncey did. Though they weren't notified because it wasn't adjacent or abutting the property, we did try to notify them, all the adjacent
I
property.
know there was no sign out there.
Cruz, are you saying there was no
It's
sign,
so-
period, or no sign for Taylor Ridge people?
To Taylor Ridge. That's mighty darn close.
So let's get this clear while it's on the table. Tommy, can you give us,
And I think y'all have a packet of information, all the items posted.
come on, Tommy, speaking to the mic. I know what you're saying, but I'm trying to make sure it gets on the record.
There's a stack of photographs of the signs for today's agenda that you each have a copy of. You look at the corresponding number 14, you can see the sign posted on the Troy Highway.
Oh, I see. This is one with number 14 on
Yes.
the corresponds to
Yes,
the
sir.
item.
Yes, the
Okay.
item, yes, sir, the same agenda.
None of them are on Taylor Ridge, though.
You know, when
All these are on Troy Highway, the signs are.
well, the abutting property on Taylor Ridge is already zoned B2 currently. And that's why we're just trying to get the remaining
These
property.
people ought to know what's going on next to them, though.
Well, again, like I said, Philip Pouncey tried to notify everything that was adjacent to the property.
Okay. So I want to, so there's no misunderstanding. Cruz, are you saying they didn't comply with advertising requirements?
They do that. We don't, you know.
I'm talking to Cruz. I'm just trying to figure out
You're looking at me.
if we didn't comply with, so we, the city, didn't comply with advertising requirements. That's the question I'm asking.
We did.
You did or you did not?
We did
You
comply
did?
with what's required, yes, sir.
Mr. Sound Man, turn Tommy's mic up, please. Now, Tommy, I'm sorry, we just didn't hear you.
Yes, it was properly advertised and posted.
Okay. Because I don't want to move forward unless we have a problem with the advertising. But it seems
agree.
like we did, at least for what's available to, what's required, you comply with, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm asking, okay. All right. Any other questions or comments for KJ? Any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
I move that we grant the request to rezone for Mr. Pouncey.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. But hold them up, guys. You're gonna need 5 to pass.
That's 5.
Okay.
That's 5.
All right.
Next item is by Larry.
Motion passes.
What was the 5? Okay.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
Next item is by Larry Speaks and Associates on behalf of Huntington College. It's a request for final approval of Huntington College Plat Number 1 on the northwest corner of Woodley Road and Narrow Lane Road. It's a special district smart code.
Hi, Paul McClendon with Larry Speaks and Associates, and on behalf of Huntington College, we are seeking plat approval for Huntington College Plat Number 1. It's 5.59 acres at the corner of Woodley and Narrow Lane Roads. If you've been by the site recently, you may have noticed the construction going on there for a new soccer field and softball field. The city engineering department requested the plat in order to more clearly establish the rights of way of Woodley and Narrow Lane Road, also to provide easements for the construction of future sidewalks along Woodley Road, and as kind of a canvas to handle spillage and hold harmless agreements. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, members of the commission, do you have any questions or comments for the petitioner?
So the construction going on now is not for this?
That's correct. It's zone smart code, so it has already been approved by the city through the technical review committee.
They're doing a soccer field and rearranging the softball field is what they're doing.
So this is really more for administrative purposes.
Okay,
So-
okay, I got you.
Okay, Any members of, well, any more questions from the commission? Seeing none, any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and proper second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Next item is by Larry Speaks and Associates on behalf of the Board of Education of Montgomery County. It's a request for final approval of Henry Allen Lovelace Plat Number 1 on the north and south sides of June Street between Bragg Street and Ewell Street in the institutional and R60D districts.
Again, Paul McClendon with Larry Speaks and Associates. We're seeking plat approval on behalf of the Board of Education for a replat of numerous previously platted lots as well as unplatted property. You'll notice in the plat we're basically combining them into three lots. Lot A is the portion of the property where the former school building still currently sits. Lot B is the portion of the property where the community center sits, and then Lot C is the rear of the property where the parking was used by the school board. Lot B is slightly substandard in width for institutional use. The reason it was split like that is Lot B, the intent is for that property to be conveyed to the city so that they can maintain the community center. The remainder of the property will be sold.
Any questions or comments for the petitioner?
It says 29 lots, and I couldn't get any more than 20, excuse me, it says 30 lots. I couldn't get any more than 29.
I'm not sure exactly how many lots it is, to be honest.
I mean, and that's splitting that little half lot on the community center.
Right.
And making it as one.
Right.
Still didn't get, but.
It is basically those two full blocks, north and south of June Street.
So we don't know how many lots.
I'm sorry?
We don't know how many lots.
I think it's 30.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know where the 30 is. That's what I'm asking.
Me and Paula went over this several times and made sure we counted correctly.
Okay.
I think on his plat where it says Lot C, there's a line that goes across that you can't see on here.
Okay.
So it's actually 4 lots.
On which lot? I'm sorry.
Where he has Lot C now,
Yes.
there's a line that goes across in the middle of those 2 north and south lots. That's actually 4 lots.
Oh, instead of 2, it's 4.
So it's kind of deceiving with some lines that you can't see.
I got you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, is June Street still a dedicated street?
Yeah, it is at this point.
Well, it's encompassed with a fence around all that facility. How can they fence off a street like that?
Good question, Cruz.
That is a good one.
Not sure.
Cruz, you're on it tonight, buddy.
I don't have an answer for that.
Well, I guess that begs another question. So the substandard lot is the one that the community center sits on, right?
Correct.
And you said something about selling some property?
That's right. The intent is the school board's getting ready to sell the property. They don't have any potential buyers at this point. They're just getting prepared for that point.
So what property are they trying to sell?
It'd be Lot A and Lot C.
Lot A and Lot C.
Correct.
And so whoever buys Lot A and Lot C, going back to Cruz's question, something's got to be figured out about the fence.
The fence at the street?
Yes.
And that's a public street, so.
They'll have to open it back up, right?
Right.
Yes, they'll have to open it back up.
Or I guess a vacation could be an option, but that would be down to the purchasers of the property.
Yeah, I understand.
Whoever's acquiring that property might think they have access to the whole area.
Okay. Any more questions from the commission? Any members of the audience who should speak for or against this item? I see someone come forward, ma'am.
Planning Board, my name is Carolyn Olivar. I'm the president of Lovely School Alumni, and I want to make sure I understand what's being sold here. Is it the school, the vacant school, or is it the community center? I don't really understand.
I think he can answer that question point blank without you looking at the map.
The intent is for...
Come to the microphone, sir.
Please explain this to me.
Okay. The intent is for Lot B.
Speaking to the microphone, my friend.
Tell me what Lot B is.
Lot B is where the community center currently sits.
The community.
Right, and the community center will be conveyed to the city. So the city will take ownership of that. The lot where the building, the school building itself currently sits, and the rear lot where the parking is, those are the properties that would be sold.
The school and...
And the rear, see the one on the bottom down there?
I think we can just cut through the chase. The school sits on Lot
A.
Lot A is for sale.
That's right, Lot A will be
So
sold.
that's the answer to the question.
Lot A will be sold, okay.
Yes.
And Lot B will
Be conveyed to the city.
convey to the city.
Correct.
As Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
Okay.
So ma'am, are you clear now?
I understand that. I understand that now. But
Wait,
we have
wait,
other
wait,
people
wait.
come.
Are you clear? Are you clear on what's happening?
Yeah, I have something else to say too.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I have.
And pull the microphone down a little bit so we can hear you.
Okay, I have an article that was done where the Montgomery Board of Education had deeded 60 feet of land to Lovett School Alumni Association. And it was with the intent to build a wall of fame there. So I don't know if you know anything about that. Okay, so I'm concerned about that. It just says the Montgomery County Board of Education, which has Lovely School, Herman Harris, graduate. He's sitting right here now. He was on the board at that time. Recently deeded to the city of Montgomery 60 feet of space that sits between the school and its neighboring community center. So you're not aware of it. It's just 60 feet. And it's a, you can have it.
That's that road.
A wall.
June Road.
It might be the June Street. How bad is June Street?
Is that June Street that you're talking about?
See, I don't know.
Is it between the two?
It's between the community center and the school.
Oh.
It's a space 60 feet to do a wall of fame.
So is that's going to be west? That's not a fair question because you're not sitting there looking at that compass. But he's got. Is that property you're talking about west of
Is
Lot
that
B?
included in the property you wanting to sell?
Based on this article.
Come.
Okay, here's another copy. Oh, can I give it to you?
The article mentions 60 feet between the school and the community center, but we are not aware of any property that has changed hands.
And through the title work, that's been determined that has not been.
I don't know that title work has been performed at this point. Surveying has been performed, but like I said, there's no purchasers. It's not being conveyed, immediately. So they're just trying to prepare for sale.
But if I'm understanding what she just said, part of Lot B would be part of that, or would that 60 foot that she's talking about be in Part in B?
Right. Yeah, there is in the article. It mentions a 60-foot.
The 60 foot is deeded to the city. And I guess the question is, does the city have any record of this?
That's what I wanted to find out. I don't know.
That's the question,
That's the question.
Tanya. Maybe you don't know the answer tonight, but because I'm sure you would be interested in getting the plat correct if this is a situation that needs to be dealt with.
Correct. Yeah, this is the first we've heard of the 60 foot. So.
Said Mr. Harris out there was instrumental in making this happen, so maybe that's something that needs to be researched. You think?
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, we have Mr. Harris. You want to make it?
Ma'am, you need to speak into the microphone. We need to keep on.
I have Mr. Harris here that was with the Board of Education when this property was deeded, and he had some comments in regard to Lovely School being sold, because we were not aware of that, because we had plans for the school to put a technology center, Henry A. Lovelace Technology Center, that you probably know anything about at all.
Well, let me say this, ma'am.
Okay.
We're not necessarily dealing with the real estate transaction tonight, but out of respect for Mr. Harris, we'll certainly let him say something.
Okay.
Quite frankly, my name is Herman Harris. With the hearing impairment, I'm not fully aware of everything that's being said, but I can say what our concern is about this whole matter. We're not interested in owning the property or anything like that. We're only concerned about the Lovelace School building and its historical significance. We would like very much that the building to be preserved and not ever destroyed, and we explore the possibility of the U.S. Park Service maybe taking over the building because it has historical significance. It, along with the Booker T. Washington building, is one of the two first public school buildings for blacks in Montgomery. Another thing, it is directly on the Selma to Montgomery Historical Trail, and for that, the Park Service might possibly be interested in it. It could be a satellite interpretive center. They have its interpretive centers already decided in other locations, but this would be ideal for that. So we're just concerned about preservation of the building. We're not interested in owning it at all.
Thank you, sir.
But there is not any dispute or problem with Lot C. Am I understanding you? Can you express that?
He can't hear you.
You don't have any issues with the lot to the south, the rear?
Say again.
You don't have any issues with the lot to the south where the parking lot is?
No. Will what you're concerned about involve the building itself?
Just the part, well, that lot C is just for the parking lot. Do you have any concerns about it?
We have sufficient space for parking, for whatever purposes the building is used for.
Okay, thank you. We understand.
I don't. I don't. I hadn't got the name.
He's going to tell you right here. Tell him what Mr. Harris just told you.
That he would like to see the building be preserved, possibly by the Park Service, or but they don't have any interest in purchasing the building itself.
But again, Lot C, it's not a concern. That's what I'm trying to find out.
He didn't seem to be concerned as long as there was sufficient parking
Well,
for the
I'm
building.
going to take that because you were standing there talking to him. I didn't hear a word. So I'm going to take what you just said is what he said. Okay.
It's all parking anyway.
It's just a big marketing. So here's where we are. There's a piece that may be missing on this whole thing that I think you want to research. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I think we need to get that figured out.
Do we need to table this until you get that research done?
Yes, please. I think that's the best course of action.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next item, Tommy.
Next item, Larry Speaks and Associates on behalf of Amity Construction. It's a public hearing for development plan for a new building on the east side of St. Luke's Drive, some 440 feet north of Copperfield Drive in an O1 district.
Again, Paul McClendon with Larry Speaks and Associates, and we're presenting a development plan for a proposed 5,253 square foot building. The intended use is to be a doctor's office, which is similar to the adjacent properties. There will be 37 parking spaces, as well as 2 concrete turnouts to St. Luke's Drive. Detention is being handled through a regional stormwater detention system at the northwest corner of the overall property. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members of the commission, any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, this is a development plan, so members of the audience, do you wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we'll declare public hearing has been held. Thank you.
Larry Speaks and Associates on behalf of Amity Construction Company, Inc. and Jeffrey and Joanne Setzinger request final approval of Montgomery East Professional Office Park Plat Number 1B on the east side of St. Luke's Drive, 440 feet north of Copperfield Drive in an O1 district.
Again, Paul McClendon, Larry Speaks and Associates, on behalf of Amity Construction and Mr. and Mrs. Seitzinger. We are requesting plat approval for a replat of lots 5 and 6 of the Montgomery East Professional Office Park Plat Number 1B, or Number 1. We're creating basically one lot from 2 lots, just combining lots in order to accommodate the previous development.
Thank you. Members of the commission, any questions or comments for the petitioner? Seeing none, any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, the motion is in order.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion's been moved and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item by Larry Speaks and Associates on behalf of Lewis and Karen Mashburn, requesting to rezone 5 parcels of land on the north side of Shady Street and east and west sides of Lenora from R60D to M3.
Paul McClendon, Larry Speaks and Associates, on behalf of Lewis and Karen Mashburn, we are requesting to rezone currently 4 properties. There's actually 5 properties that are shown on the map there. The owner has met with adjacent property owners. He has agreed to remove parcel E from the map, so he's no longer requesting to rezone that at this time. This was originally brought to the Planning Commission on March 23rd. It was delayed to work out some issues between the owner and a couple of adjacent property owners. There's been a few changes to that. He's removed, in addition to the one that was removed this week, there was 2 other properties that were taken off. The property at the corner of Lenora Street and Joseph Street on the southeast corner there was added from the previous meeting. I'll be glad to answer any questions. The total acreage is 1.54 acres that he's requesting rezoning for. And these.
Okay, members of the commission, you wish to address this petition?
So G is what was added?
Yes.
Okay. And E, as you said, is gone. It's not part of this request.
Correct. And also additionally there was a parcel A up near Eva Street.
And that was where they were talking about the trash?
Correct.
Yes.
That has been removed as well.
And they agreed?
Yes.
To not make it, okay.
Yeah, questions for you. So last time we were here, there was a lot of discussion, and there was, I think the agreement was that the interested parties will come back with an agreement. And would you say that everybody's in agreement at this point based on what you have just presented?
That is my understanding. Mr. Mashburn is here. He has met with the adjacent property owners.
Okay, well.
And it's my understanding that they have come to an agreement.
All right, well, we're about to open it up to the audience. So any members of the audience wish to speak for or against this item, please come forward and give us your name, please.
I'm QB Ray Hayes, and I own the property at the end of Shady Street, right next to a parcel that Mr. Lewis owns. And he was going to put a dumping station there. He has thus since voided that plan. And he has another lot, so we're in agreement on Shady Street, whatever he wants to do, but we have a disagreement on Francis Street.
Good evening, board. My name is Jacqueline Ross, and I own the property that sits at the corner of Francis and Lenora. On the corner there, Mr. Lewis owns that lot, and I spoke with him, and he told me that he gave up the lot on the right, which I told you would have landlocked my land, and I wanted to put the house there. Well, he wants to put still a storage container to the left, and he said that he would be willing to put a fence, but I still think that should stay for family dwellings, because I asked him, would you want a storage facility next to your home? I also, we talked about him possibly selling it Same thing with the previous owner. He told me that he had to talk with his wife and his children. I did call the county, and that corner is appraised at $1,800. But I'm here, and I just totally disagree. I do not want a storage container of any type next to where I plan to build my home.
And that is designated as E, is that correct? Which is not part of tonight's request for rezoning. Am I saying that correctly? That's been removed, so your objection.
Okay, it has been removed? Okay,
Yes,
because I'm
ma'am.
just looking at, I don't see what it is. I apologize.
No, he just told us. That's the reason. I want to make sure you under.
Okay, I
Yes,
understand.
ma'am.
Yeah,
So
that
no,
just came out tonight, but let's be perfectly clear where this storage issue is being removed.
Okay.
That's at the corner of Francis Street and Lenora Street. And that's where you're concerned, right?
that's
ma'am?
why I'm concerned.
And earlier comments were made by the engineer that has been taken off the table.
Okay, because he was okay. He was reciting letters, I believe.
I
Okay,
understand. We
but
just
that's
wanna-
fine. But thank you so much, and thank you, sir.
And we want to thank Mr. Lewis. We welcome his RV park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Appreciate it.
So let's be clear now before y'all leave, ladies. I know everybody's thanking everybody, but I will. That yellow rectangle on the map there, the red rectangle at the corner.
Yes,
of
sir.
Lenora and Francis is off the table. You're in agreement with it. Mr. Lewis is in agreement with it. He's doing this and all that. So okay, all right.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
your time.
All right. You want to make any comments before we vote?
I do not.
Comments are closed. Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Last item is by the Planning Controls Division, City of Montgomery's request for a text amendment to the zoning ordinance, Article 7, Section 2 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Montgomery, Alabama, as amended.
So somebody gonna explain this? Try to explain
Well,
it.
the way it's a typo that's been in the ordinance for as long as we can remember, and we've been interpreting it as a typo, and this just officially changes it.
Move to fix the typo.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor, raise your hand.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Before we adjourn tonight, Mr. Cruz Reeves would like to make some comments that we need to take into consideration, and we're going to give Mr. Cruz the opportunity to say what's on his mind regarding signs.
That's right. I know planning control says they have no obligation to post those signs at these different rezonings and plats and all that. And there's several people on this planning commission that would like to see that mandatory. And a city councilman told me before they could act on that, that we have to vote to get it changed where it'd be mandatory. And that's what I want to present tonight. Make a motion that we vote to make it mandatory for those signs be put out, and then the city council will approve the guidelines that apply to that.
Well, Cruz, let's have some discussion about that before we take any action. And I'll say this. I don't totally disagree with what you're asking. The only thing I want to do is understand more about whatever it is that you're asking. And right now, I would like to have this as a discussion, and if there's going to be any action taken, let's take it maybe at the next meeting. But I know I'd like some more details about whatever it is that you're asking us to do, and right now I don't have that. But that's my opinion. If any other members wish to speak to this issue, that's up to you guys, but I would like to have a discussion tonight and give it every opportunity to be discussed and vetted or whatever, and maybe we can take action if that's the case at some other time. Tommy, you about to say something?
I am. I want you to know that you're not the only board that we have, that we staff for 4 boards in the Planning Controls Department. And we advertise and post every agenda item for all 4 boards. We presently do that now. It's not just rezonings, but we post them all. If there's something in the garden district, for instance, a historic property comes up, it's posted. We go out and Bill Jones does the posting for us, and he's on our staff, and it takes him a couple of days to do this posting. And to go out, has a rhythm to doing it and to collecting them and putting the next board's signs up in the same fashion. And it's all over town. And you know, for agenda today was 20 items. We advertise it on the property, each individual property. It's published in the newspaper. It's published on the city website. And in some cases, they also give adjacent property owners letters and to inform them of it. It's nothing that's done. We post them all. Now, there are occasions where a sign will get knocked down. People cut grass. We have a nuisance abatement officer that cites properties for overgrown weeds, and people rush out to get the grass cut before they get fined by the city. I asked Bill today how often they go missing, and he said rarely. He said now they'll be knocked down by either somebody taking it down for whatever reason, but not very often does it go missing. It might be on the ground when he goes to collect it. He drives them with a stake. The stakes on occasion end up in people's vegetable gardens as a tomato stake because it's a pretty good, nice piece of wood. But most of the time, it's just due to the weather, or a child might come around and knock it over. But we go out and post every single item on all 4 boards.
Tommy, could I ask one question on that?
Yes.
Out of the 4 boards, the Planning Commission, is it the largest postings, or is it?
Most often.
In other words, the other 3 boards, posting is not as prevalent as it is on the Planning Commission.
Well, it depends on what, when we make the agendas up, you know, people made applications for a lot of development or something.
And the reason I asked that question was to go back to a comment I made last time, and it was asking to inform me and have an informative conversation about it. I wasn't criticizing anybody. I wasn't, and that was the piece of property that I rode by downtown that didn't have a sign on it. And you said, well, it had been picked up that morning, and my suggestion was, well, maybe we could pick it up the day after.
Well, it changes the rhythm of the...
Then that's why I asked the question I asked, because if we got 20 signs and you got 3 boards that have got 6 signs, seems to me like the tail's wagging the dog. So that's my comment. If our signs, in my mind, if our signs aren't up the day of the meeting, I think that we're not being fair to the people, because that's, you know, it's like a lady came in today and said, well, it's the first time she saw it. Well, we can't help that, but if it's not there the day of the meeting, I think that's my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents.
Can I make a comment?
Please do.
Mr. Harvick?
Yes.
Bill Jones, who posts these signs, that's not his only job. He has a lot of office requirements that he has to do as well.
But I mean, what does that got to do with us? I mean, the most important